Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Giribaradhari. Gopi Jana Balaba Giribaradhari. Dasharanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Dasharanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashto Tadasadashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashto Tadasadashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Shri Baladev, Sri Jagannath, Shri Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Sing the mercy. So we're going to be speaking about how the demigods are suffocated. I hope some of the demigods show up for the class because there's not many people here. That was what Prabhupada said. Even if the demigods are there, that's okay, no problem. The devotees rented a hall in Boston, and there was only about 5 devotees in a big capacity of 400 or 500, And there was only 5 people that showed up, and then Prabhupada said, no, the demigods are there, don't worry. Okay, so we're on the 4th canto, chapter 8, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. And today is text 80. Tasmin abidyayati vishvam atmano. Do that again. Tasmin abhi yad yati vishvam atmano. Response? Oh, there's not there. Okay. IT guys aren't around. So we'll hold on for a minute. I need some jal lagbe. That's Bengali for I need some water. That's right, he's getting some, Prabhu. He's getting it. Okay, first, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This was also the mantra that Dhruva Maharaj chanted. Right? And so I'm hoping that Krishna will empower me because I just chanted it so I can give a reasonable class. Hare Krishna. Okay, so Sanskrit. Boy, this thing really gets in the way. Oh, we're still waiting. Get your phones out. Everyone's got their phones ready to go? Just share phones over here. Okay, so we're 4880. Everybody ready? Dustin? Tasmin abidyayati vishvam atmano. Dwaram nirudyasum ananyaya diya. Loka nirutshasa nipita. No, nidipta bisham. Salokapala sharanam yayor harim. Tasmin abidyayati vishvam atmano. Dwaram nirudyasam ananyaya diya. Loka nirujvasa nipidya bisam. Salokafala sharanam yayoharim. Please chant. Tasmin vidyayati vishvamatmano. Tvaram nirudyasam ananyadidya. Salokafala sharanam yayoharim. Tasmin avidyayati vishvamatmano. Tvaram nirudyasam ananyayadiya. Loka nirudyasa nibititantadam. Lokafala sharanam yayoharim. Tasmin avidyayati vishvamatmano. Thank you, bro. Lokani vishva. Vaishnavis? Tasmin Dhruva Maharaj Abhidiyayati while meditating with full concentration. Vishvam Atmana, the total body of the universe. Dwaram, the holes. Nirudya, closed. Ashum, the life air. Ananyaya, without being diverted. Diya, meditation. Loka, all the planets. Niruchvasa, having stopped breathing. Nipidita, thus being suffocated. Vrisham, very soon. Salokafala, all the great demigods from different planets. Sharanam, shelter. Yayu, took. Harim, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods and all the planetary systems felt suffocated, and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please repeat. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and the great demigods and all the planetary systems felt suffocated. And thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. When hundreds of persons are sitting in an airplane, although they remain individual units, they each share in the total force of the airplane, which runs at thousands of miles per hour. Similarly, when unit energy is identified with the service of the total energy, the unit energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. As explained in the previous verse, Dhruva Maharaj, because of his spiritual advancement, became almost the total heaviness. And thus he pressed down the whole earth. Moreover, by his spiritual power, his unit body became the total body of the universe. Thus, when he closed the holes of his unit body to firmly concentrate his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the units of the universe, namely all the living entities, including the big demigods, felt the pressure of suffocation, as if their breathing were being choked. Thereafter, they all took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they were perplexed as to what had happened. The example of Dhruva Maharaj closing the holes of his personal body and thereby closing the breathing holes of the total universe clearly indicates that a devotee, by his personal devotional service, can influence all the people of the whole world to become devotees of the Lord. If there is only one pure devotee in pure Krishna consciousness, he can change the total consciousness of the world into Krishna consciousness. This is not very difficult to understand if we study the behavior of Dhruva Maharaj. Tasmin abid yayati vishvam atmano dwaram nirodhyasam ananyaya diya loka nirodrasa nipitita visham saloka phala sharanam yayur harim. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods and all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Gyanatimmanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umlitam Gena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Any questions or comments? Tough verse to give a class on, but I'll try my best. So this is this pastime with Dhruva Maharaj is extremely powerful and elucidating for devotees. We can actually understand how to practice devotional service. Of course, we don't do Astanga Yoga, but just the Vyavashyatmika Buddhi that was demonstrated by Dhruva Maharaj that just gave him incredible Shakti. Now, we're dealing a little bit with some very powerful mystic yoga. There's Asta Siddhis. There's 8 mystic yoga potencies. And one of them is Mahima Siddhi. So one becomes heavier than the heaviest. And in the previous verse, that's what he did. Became heavier than the heaviest. Who's the heaviest? What do you call it? The external manifestation. And of course, Lord Vishnu is behind all of that. So heavier than the heaviest. Not quite as heavy, Prabhupada says in the purport. And then, there's other mystic cities. I actually became a devotee due to the mystic cities of a Kundalini yogi who Prabhupada gave darshan. He worshipped Radha Krishna deities. It's like a really amazing story. But it was miraculous, what took place in my life as a result of that. And so the very first time I visited a temple, I joined. That was it. It was just so miraculous. And the next day, my first full day in the temple, Hansarupa taught me how to chant japa, and I chanted 16 rounds and never stopped. But it was really, really remarkable. And there's the mystic cities that Dhruva Maharaj developed weren't to show off. Okay, this yogi, he actually fell down with a young female disciple later on. So that oftentimes that's what the mystic yogis do. They want to show how great they are. So they do all these austerities for that purpose. Maybe to get good income, get good reputation, what have you. So, but Dhruva Maharaj, he was just really focused to the maximum. And this was Yavyashyatmaka Buddhir, Ekiha Kuru Nandana, Bahu Shaka Yanantascha, Buddhayo Vyavashayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in determination, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, those that are irresolute, their intelligence is many-branched. Okay, so Prabhupada had a major milestone in his own relationship with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his propagating Krishna consciousness worldwide. When he was reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gave an understanding of what this Vyavashyatmika Buddhir, this single-minded intelligence, was all about. He described that when one takes the order of the spiritual master and makes it one with his heart and soul, This is Vivyashyatmika Buddhi. And Prabhupada was the epitome of exactly this. No matter what, he kept going. His godbrothers didn't, but he did. And the results were phenomenal. So that principle is applicable to all of us. We've got our Diksha Gurus and we've got our founder Acharya. Some devotees call him the preeminent Shiksha Guru, the foundational Shiksha Guru, but he's our founder Acharya. So his instructions have incredible potency. If we strictly follow, then we will have that Vivyashyatmika Buddhi, and we give our heart and soul to that. We do the same thing with our Diksha Guru, because they're just in parampara line. And he did this with the instructions that Narada Muni gave him. So it was very, this whole parampara, this is where the potency comes from. Now, it's a very unusual analogy that Srila Prabhupada uses in the first paragraph. Can someone explain it? I got some ideas of how to explain it. That was why I was thinking maybe we ask for questions and comments even before I start speaking, because it's a difficult presentation, but I'll try my best. I've got cataracts, so it's hard to see now. When hundreds of people are sitting in an airplane, although they remain individual units, they each share in the total force of the airplane, which runs at thousands of miles per hour. Similarly, when unit energy is identified with the service of the total energy, the energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. Now, my understanding of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when one identifies, in other words, when one gives heart and soul in parampara, here, Dhruva Maharaj is very, very strictly following the instructions coming from Narada Muni. And that's his guru. And all of that's being arranged because Narada Muni is a pure devotee, transparent via media, coming directly from Krishna. So it's spot on. It's exactly what's wanted. And so that, like the Shakti, when we have that Vivyashyatmika Buddhi, then we access that incredible Shakti that comes in parampara, in our mission, in our tradition. I've noticed this, myself in my own life, when once, I might have told this story. I've told this to some devotees privately. Maybe I said it in class. Forgive me if I have. But once, Ramapad Das Brahmachari, at that time he was the temple president. This goes way back to probably 78, summer of 78. I was on a traveling Sankirtan party. Have I told this story before? Anybody hear it? You heard it. Okay, you're the only one? I gave it in class. I talked about it in class. Taught it in private. Yeah, okay. So I got your permission to say it again. You won't fall asleep on me? Okay. So we had Brahmachari traveling Sankirtan party. This is out of the 55th Street Temple, Midtown Manhattan. We had 4 saffron-colored vans. We had, in each van, there were 4 saffron-clad brahmacharis. Then we had a saffron-colored motorhome, which those are you from India. Maybe I don't exactly know what that means, but that's a home on wheels. And it's got you just drive it down the road, and it had a kitchen in it, it had a bathroom, it had, a separate bedroom, and had a big room where we'd have Mangalarti and Guru Puja, chant japa together, and have Bhagavatam classes, and then have prasadam. So one night, Ramapad Das Brahmachari, before he took sannyas, came out to be with us. Okay, so in those days, the standard for for dancing and kirtan was you jump as high as you possibly can. This was at least for the young brahmacharis. So we were jumping like so high, and I was so ecstatic, and the motorhome was rocking on its springs. And then after Mangalarti, we chanted japa together. Then we had on the dashboard of the motorhome with all the deity photos, Radha Govinda, Gaurnitai, and Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra. And then we chanted japa together. I don't remember whether we had Guru Puja, whether we had Tulsi Puja. I don't think so. But during japa, Ramapad Das Brahmachari was observing. And in the Bhagavatam class, which was from the second chapter of the first canto, I don't remember which verse, he really focused on japa. And he noticed that many of the devotees weren't chanting good japa. And he said that he observed devotees chanting dive bomber japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And others chanting radar japa, looking at the cooking breakfast, different things, like inattention, pramada. So he emphasized that this was such an important service for us to chant really good japa. And I realized after the class that I was one that wasn't chanting such good japa. I don't think I was doing dive bomber japa, but I might have been doing radar japa. And so the next morning, sometimes we would, when there's a senior devotee like that, we'll chant inside. But usually we were in very remote areas. So the next morning, the way we'd get up, we each had a gallon jug, one for soaping up, this is our shower, and the other jug for rinsing off. And then we would start our japa. We'd have Mangalarti, then japa. And we were out in a big, a big agricultural field surrounded by forests. So I got out, and I was determined to chant the best japa that I'd ever chanted in my life thus far. So are you sure that you haven't heard this before? No, I haven't said it in class. Did I say it in class? Oh my God. Oh, on Friday, oh my God, this old brain. Oh, you weren't here, Kanaha, Gopal. So, okay, I won't tell it again then, all right? Sorry. But just kind of the bottom line was that I did chant the best japa I'd ever chanted, because some devotees weren't here. And it was amazing what took place. When I got out on book distribution, every single person that I met was like the best person I'd meet in a week. And I did 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times the amount of books and Lakshmi collected. So naturally I did the same thing the next day, chanted super good rounds. And, so the Shakti came in parampara, because Prabhupada said this is our most important, of all the instruction to the spiritual master, the chanting of 16 rounds is the most essential. And that's in the purport to Madhya 22, 113. Smartavya sadatam vishnur vishmartavyo najatuchit sarve vidhi nasheda shur etayor eva kinkara. One should always remember Krishna, and one should never forget him. All the rules and regulations are simply servants of these 2 principles. And then Prabhupada says, in the purport, about 1/3 of the way into the purport, he says that if you want to remember Krishna, then chant Hare Krishna. Then a few sentences later he says, of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the chanting of 16 rounds is the most essential. Of all the instructions, that is the most essential. So if we put a real high priority on this, then we can access an incredible amount of Shakti. Okay, so then this sentence right here, So when unit energy is identified with the service of the total energy, so that's basically what I understand Prabhupada saying. Well, we're really focusing on the instructions in parampara. Then we get that Shakti. We get, because the unit energy becomes as powerful as the total energy. It's okay, so kind of to go down to the last paragraph, because this is very significant instruction here, understanding. The example of Dhruva Maharaj closing the holes of his personal body and thereby closing the breathing holes of the total universe clearly indicates that a devotee, by his personal devotional service, can influence all the people of the whole world to become devotees of the Lord. If there is only one pure devotee in pure Krishna consciousness, he can change the total consciousness of the world into Krishna consciousness. This is not very difficult to understand if we study the behavior of Dhruva Maharaj. Prabhupada isn't mentioning any names, but it's clear to me that this is Prabhupada that's being described here, because that's what he did. He changed the consciousness of the whole world, and the whole world, the consciousness will continue to change. And I spoke about this in the last class. It's one of my favorite references. I discovered it about 3 years ago. It was in the Global Vyasa Puja book, published during the Srila Prabhupada Centennial. There was a Centennial Committee, and Pancharatna was a key player on that Centennial Committee. And Lokanath Swami, he was the minister of this Centennial effort. And he wrote the introduction, and there he quoted from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Now, all of us have heard about the 10,000-year golden age of Krishna consciousness, right? We're in it, okay? But we didn't hear about the first part of the quote from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So it was discovered by some of our ISKCON scholars. And it's... I'm going to give a paraphrase that it's a pastime that took place between Ganga Mata. Okay, now, I haven't given anybody a sleeping pill yet, so don't fall asleep on this, because this is really significant. Ganga Devi, this is the personification of the Ganges River, came to Krishna. Krishna, how can I think of... No, that's a different one. Okay, she came to Krishna. Krishna, I'm in so much anxiety. Kali Yuga is about to manifest. You're about to leave your earthly pastimes. Already people are becoming more and more sinful. Soon Kali Yuga will fully manifest. And so many sinful people will bathe in my waters. What will I do with their sinful reactions? I have so much anxiety. And then Krishna responded, Ganga Mataji, do not be in anxiety. In 5,000 years, my mantra Upashaka, mantra, holy name, Upashaka, worshipper of the holy name, will manifest, will appear. He will spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, make many pure devotees, they will bathe in your waters and free you from those sinful reactions. Okay, anybody want to guess who that mantra Upashaka is? Some scholars have different opinions, but is there a response back there? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And that was the beginning of the Golden Age. It really was. That was what he started to do. Srila Bhakti, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur cleared off all the apasampradaya nonsense that had entered into the Gaudiya mission, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, with his scholarly research and publication of so many and powerful books. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. And there was, a very good example of what is not Vyavashyatmika Buddha. when after, like within weeks after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's departure, most of his disciples, with one major exception, neglected his instructions, and major crash. 66 temples, 66 Gaudiya Mass. So that Vyavashyatmika buddhi is what Prabhupada used. That's what Dhruva Maharaj entered into, the same Vyavashyatmika buddhi, that single-minded intelligence. And that facility is available to us according to the depth of our desire to advance in Krishna consciousness, because it's what it's all about. If we've got that Vyavashyatmika buddhi, it accelerates our spiritual advancement like anything. And the Sanatan Shiksha, this is Madhya 22, there's, Prabhupada quotes this in the purport to the 241, the Vyavashyatmika buddhi rigiha kuru nandana. So he says that, well, he quotes a verse. Let me tell you kind of the preface to the verse. That a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one can be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavashyatmika intelligence. So that really strong faith, which when you got the faith, then you're going to focus. It's obvious. The two are very much connected. So Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Shuddhida Nishtaya Krishna Bhakti Kale Sarvakarma Krita Hoy. Shraddha is confident, firm faith that simply by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. So, what does Prabhupada mean by the subsidiary activities? Anybody? Without looking at your I was going to say your brain. No, I mean the smartphone. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, all these fruitive activities, and even taking care of family, it'll automatically be done. This is the point that Prabhupada makes with the pure devotee. And it's not that we're irresponsible, but we don't have to be, you don't have to put heart and soul into all these other activities. We put heart and soul into pure devotional service, and then phew, everything takes place. It's an automatic. We're not required other than that. So, yeah, I'll just read a little excerpt from the purport to Madhya 22:62. Firm faith and confidence are called Shraddha. When one engages in the Lord's devotional service, he is to be understood to have performed all his responsibilities in the material world. He says he has satisfied his forefathers, ordinary living entities, and demigods, and is free from all responsibility. Such a person does not need to meet his responsibilities separately. He does not have to work separately for pious activities. The best achievement of all fruitive activity is detachment from material life. And this detachment is spontaneously enjoyed by the devotee, firmly fixed in the Lord's service. Automatic. Automatically become detached when you're chanting really good rounds, and then you got to focus. That will carry you through the day, through your life. Okay, so and this is, Prabhupada is Dhruva Maharaj. We've got an example. We've got Prahlad Maharaj as an example. And we have Srila Prabhupada as an example. We have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as an example. Even as a family man, the level of focus that Bhaktivinoda Thakur demonstrated was mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. What was it? How many hours did he sleep in a day? Something like 3. something like that. And he he had, how many children? Was it 6 or 7? 10. Are you sure? You're not. 10? Okay, that's confirmed. He knows, So, but every day he would spend 1 hour in a family meeting. Pretty remarkable. And he was a high court magistrate in Jagannath Puri. And then he came to Navadvip Dham, and he had responsibilities there, very significant responsibilities. Don't remember all the details of that. And then he looked out of his veranda window upstairs, out his window, in his room upstairs in his house, and he had a vision. He had a vision of this Abut Mandir. And that he saw devotees coming from Russia, coming from America, from South America, from Africa, from all over the world, and chanting and dancing the holy name, free from the bodily conception of life. And the Abut Mandir, his understanding in this vision was that it was built, then Krishna consciousness would spread like wildfire worldwide. And so Braj Vilas Prabhu has made a vow, let's see, that it will open 2027. And this will be the 50th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's Tirobhav, his departure. So it will be a monumental event. And already, Pancharatna, myself, and 15 other senior devotees are working on the strategies to make this all happen. Maybe I shouldn't say this in public yet, but it's happening. It's going to take place in a major way. Also, the 2026 incorporation of ISKCON, which is the 60th anniversary of ISKCON. This is all we're starting the strategizing it now. But the whole idea is to make it so clear to us what Srila Prabhupada's position is in the world, in our mission, and in our lives, individual lives. And if we really take that seriously, our spiritual development will just be unbelievably accelerated. We just connect on a heart level. This is exactly what Dhruva Maharaj did with the instructions that came from Narada Muni, from his mother, from his stepmother, and he just took it, heart and soul. It was so impressive how he just went at the age of 5 into the forest that Narada Muni, who was Trikalagya, wow, this is great. And so then he went and gave his Sangha. Okay, so are there any questions or comments? Yes, Abe Prabhu. Say again now? How can you approach him in the heart? Okay, all right. Good question. At I think it was, Archita Prabhu can correct me, but I think it was 1972, Srila Prabhupada came to the San Francisco temple, and there was a whole large number of news reporters, television, newspaper, and they'd all gathered to question Srila Prabhupada. So one of the first questions that came up was, Swamiji, what will happen to your movement when you die? Unusual question. So Prabhupada responded, I will never die. I will live forever in my books. So this is, Srila Prabhupada's, his personal ecstasies can be tapped into in a very deep way by regularly studying his books. One thing that took place, when we started the Mayapur Institute, we focused on what's called student-centered learning, where it's not just a lecture mode, but the students become very actively involved in the learning process. They have groups, they do group work, they'll make group presentations to the rest of the class, there'll be debates, there'll be dramas, there'll be artwork. That was another thing that was done regularly. But it became so personal, and devotees developed such close relationships with fellow students. They developed such close relationships with their teachers. And there's Srimad Bhagavatam, you can check this out because it's kind of a guiding light. 3.25.25 Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata taj joshanad ashvapavargavartmani shradaratir bhaktir anukramishati. Discussions of the pastimes, the name, form, pastimes of the Lord are very pleasing to the ear and to the heart. By engaging in these discussions, one makes very, very rapid advancement. And, I'm paraphrasing that last part because it goes into Shraddha, goes into the different stages of spiritual advancement, right up to Prem. So those kind of experiences where there's tremendous sincerity in discussion amongst devotees, particularly about Srila Prabhupada, we're going to be launching in Mayapur on July 14th, to train the trainer for teachers and both in the schools, the upper level classes, and also Mayapur Institute. We're training them how to teach the Srila Prabhupada introductory course, and it will be all student-centered learning. The devotee that was kind of my partner in starting the Mayapur Institute, he trained the teachers, he developed the course material, he taught himself. He developed, along with a few other devotees, the IDC course, ISKCON disciple course. So he developed Srila Prabhupada introductory course, and now we're about to launch it by training those to teach it. And it's based upon the abridged version of the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, but it will be all about Prabhupada. How to go deeper into that relationship with him, understand his role in our movement, understand his role in our lives. Now that will come, it won't be like the Founder Acharya course. It will be more just about Prabhupada, the amazing things that he did, from his childhood through his youth, after marriage, he just kept going. When he met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there was a major change that took place in his life. He understood he accepted him as his guru in the first meeting. And, even before he read Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on 241, Vyashyatmika Buddha, he made this his mission in life. He understood this. That Shakti was so intense from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So this is, what we did in the Mayapur Institute was a whole team effort. It transformed the lives of hundreds and thousands of devotees. Many of them come back and tell me. Some of them are now like full-time teachers. One of them, Srivas Prabhu, he came to Mayapur in 2008. He didn't have any money. He didn't have a place to stay. He didn't have any prasadam. And he was begging me, Janmastami, can you help? I want to take Bhakti Shastri. And so I arranged for everything. He took Bhakti Shastri, completely transformed his life. Now, he's taken all the way through Bhaktivedanta. He's one of the main teachers in the Mayapur Institute. He's regional secretary in Western Africa. Even when he was in Mayapur during the Gaurapanim festival, attending the GBC meetings, he was every morning giving classes online in Africa. Totally surrendered. But that's what transformed his life. Got into just Vyavashyatmika buddhi in his relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So this is a very crucial thing, to go through this shastric training, and really enter in to a deep, in-the-heart understanding of Srila Prabhupada and his role in our lives. Because it can be the most powerful experience. And that's not just Srivas Prabhu, but many devotees have told me the same thing, including Tulsi and what's his partner's name from Pandava Pran? Pandava Pran? Pandava Panda. Pandava, what's the last part? Say it something really loud, because I forgot my hearing aid. Pandava? Pandava. Banda, B. Okay. Pandava. So their lives are transformed by taking Bhakti Shastri. And so it can happen to you too, Baba. It's miraculous. Many. I would say over 1,000, if not more. Many of them are teachers now, but, depends on the level of, commitment to the course and what have you. Anything else? I got 1 more minute of ecstasy. Any questions, comments? One last thing. I almost forgot. There's one other thing that I want to bring up. Maybe I gave one to you before, I'm not sure. This? No. Okay, I got a few of these left. I only got one japa affirmation left. And Bear Krishna Maharaj, this is before I became temple president in Denver. I became the temple president in 92, took over for Nuttama Prabhu. And he did research on all the letters that Srila Prabhupada sent to GBCs. And he found that in practically every single letter, Srila Prabhupada stressed that your most important responsibility is to make sure that every single person in all of your temples goes to the full morning program. Okay? So, let's see, when I gave this, I spoke about this at 26 2nd Avenue this last Saturday. And, some of them are grahastas and they don't live near the temple, different challenges. So I said, here's a solution to that, because I was on traveling Sankirtan for the first 14 years, almost nonstop, as a devotee. And we didn't have the temple program. We did our own program out on the road. Sometimes I was traveling even by myself or with one other devotee. So what we would do, and what I do now, because I got all this health care that I got to do in the morning, even though I get up at 3 usually, sometimes I come midway through Mangal Arti, but I recite the prayers. And here's a temple songbook. It fits just like the japa affirmation. It'll fit in your pocket. And you can learn the meaning of each word that you're singing. So it's not just mechanical. It's deep in the heart, because it's very powerful what's being described in each one of these songs. From Mangal Arti to Nishinga Puja, to Tulsi Puja, to Guru Puja. We got the 10 offenses here. There's one, this is done by Danavir Goswami from his college in Kansas City. There's a mistake that was made on the word for word on the Nishinga prayers, and it's on the very last page, and the diacritics are off. But other than that, Everything's pucka. And they were, somehow or other, the pages were glued together. So I had to separate them and cut it a little bit. But, you got the 10 offenses right there for you, pronunciation guide, tilak guide, the whole thing. And but it's very handy. And I'm leaving on Wednesday morning. I was saying Tuesday, but actually I'm leaving on Wednesday. But I would, if anybody doesn't have one and would like one, you're welcome to take one. Okay, they're very helpful. And okay, so you can come up and get it, or someone can distribute. There aren't. Let's see. I distributed about 20 at the 26 matchless gifts. There's only 6 here. So anybody want one? Okay, there's 1. Anybody else? 2, 3. Anybody else? 4, 5. I got 1 left. Anybody want it? 6. Okay. All right. So, and now in terms of donations, you give your heart to Krishna. And because this is something that also Prabhupada put on a very high level of priority, attending a full morning program. And so if you can't attend it in the body, you can at least do a Manasi Mangal Artik, or Manasi morning program. Of course, it's preferable to come in person because then you get the darshan and the deities and all the ecstasy that flows in that way. Okay, so whoever raised their hands, you can come up and get it. And and then if you want to give, each book is worth around probably 5 lakh rupees, something in that category. But, and if you want to give a donation, I promise I will not use for sense gratification, only for printing more of these. Okay? There you go. Let them fly. You want to distribute them, Prabhu? No, I tell you what. Dustin, you distribute them. Here, you saw who was raising their hands. You were in prime location to do that. Okay? You know them all by heart already, right? Mostly. Okay. Any other questions or comments while they're getting handed out? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? And then in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment, this is the subsequent, 2 verses later, Bhagavad Gita 2:44, Bhogashvaya prashaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavashyatmika buddhi samadho navidhi yute. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. The purport, Prabhupada says, samadhi means fixed mind. And when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Okay? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavas.